Alright, so one day in Arizona, there was a girl that went to go visit her ex-boyfriend, and while she was there, she claimed that he attacked her, and in self-defense, she murdered him. And murdering him, she stabbed him 29 times in multiple places. She shot him, and she finished it off by slitting his throat from ear to ear. And I would like to pose the question before I start the speech of whether you guys think this is self-defense or murder. The intimate partner homicide, more commonly referred to as the IPH, is a domestic violence crime commonly committed between those who are currently in a relationship or those who have had once been in a relationship that had contained domestic violence. Numerous research studies have been conducted covering the past IPH cases. The girl in the story that I just mentioned, her name is Jodi Arias. She brutally murdered her ex-boyfriend, and when evidence was truly against her, she began claiming self-defense. In one homicide study research, one of the self-defense cases resulted in the perpetrator staying out of prison, and that was at 1 out of 12 cases. Today I'm going to share with you the research study showing whether men and women equally fall victim to IPH, the homicide studies researched by Homicide Research Working Group, how self-defense is viewed in courthouses across the United States, and the similarities and differences between the women IPH cases and the Jodi Arias case, and the other research cases by women. Some research groups, such as the National Family Violence Survey, found that equal rates assaulting by intimate partners among both men and women. Though the NFVS found equal rates in these studies, they examine more serious assaults and do not report the conclusion of similar rates. Both men and women though they were both in the crimes, the male was 85% more of the victimization against the women. Research also found by the NIJ found that 90% of systematic and persistent and injurious violence were perpetrated by men killing the wives or girlfriends. All research shows that the amount of perpetrators in IPH is profoundly higher against the men than women. However, there are women that have been the perpetrator in these crimes. Homicide Research Working Group conducted over 117 research cases over the IPH crimes that happened in Denver, Colorado between 1991 and 2009. Of these cases, I'm going to be talking to you about the women who killed their partner. In these cases, some of the cases, the first one, that 12 of the 12 cases that were women against men, 5 of them were claimed self-defense. In the first case, the lady and her ex-husband, she was still living in the house, and he broke into the house, and in self-defense, because he had tried to attack her, used the gun and shot him. In the second case, it was a girl and her boyfriend at the time. They were in a hotel and intoxicated, but they were both arguing for over a matter of 4 hours before, and he had hit her numerous times before she grabbed a gun and shot him in the back of the head. The next case was a marriage that had been about 3 or 4 years, and they were fighting in the driveway in a car where a neighbor saw the man arguing with her, threatening her, and shaking a gun in her face, where she then shot him, called police, reported it, and then shot herself. And the last one I'm going to talk about was the most brutal, where the wife was actually pregnant, she had the daughter, and once they got divorced, he began stalking both her and the daughter in plans of killing them. He broke into their house, and she ended up killing him first. And those are all the self-defense cases, yet none of them actually got out, and they all remained in jail. Let's see. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little about the legal systems and how each different courthouse perceives self-defense. And one example I want to talk to you about, it was about, there was this guy that he was actually going to the gas station, and this is conducted by, Seville. She states that this man who was gotten out of his car, he got in a tiff in a scuffle with these guys in the gas station, and when he was leaving, they all jumped him, they threatened him with knives, and he also had a knife. that he pulled on him in order to protect himself. As they called his bluff, he stabbed the guy because they had a knife up to his throat. He stabbed the guy in his side and drove off immediately. He got pulled over about 3 blocks away from an officer and was arrested, and found out later that the guy that he had stabbed had died and was charged with second-degree murder. He was in jail for 3 years before his lawyers finally got him off of the case. And in the state that he was in, which was Florida, I believe, obviously every state has self-defense, but theirs was less strict and more in favor of the people, where they have a thing called matching force with force. So in his case, he was matching force with force equally by the knife with a knife. Another research done by Lisa Riordan Seville, the crime court found that different views among courthouses across the United States were, like I said, talking about the force against force. And there's another portion of it I guess never mind, I won't say that. Ultimately, the jury's grand views is more morality. So they call it can't think of the word. Oh, it's up to each person's views morally if it's sound or not. Next, I'm going to talk about the similarities and differences between the Jodi Arias trial and those cases that I previously mentioned to you. The similarities through the Domestic Homicide Research Group were all the ladies and victims. They had previous violence in their past. They were either abused, which is what Jodi Arias is claiming, she was abused as a child. They claimed that their boyfriends or domestic partner at the time was abusing them verbally or physically, which Jodi Arias is claiming. But they also, in their way, theirs was more justified in the way that they murdered, with a force of force, which I was telling you about before. In Jodi Arias' case, like I said, she stabbed him 29 times, she shot him and slit his throat, and Travis didn't even have a weapon to defend himself. Finally, I'm going to conclude that though both men and women are perpetrators of these crimes, women are the lesser of the two, and self-defense is ultimately up against the decision and moral views of people and how they feel the justification of the murder is.